in the past 13, 14 years, I've been involved in pushing advocacy, both for better cancer control, as well as in increased involvement of the African region in clinical trials, not for oncology clinical trials specifically, but in all clinical trials, because the burden, we have a huge burden, disease burden that we are fighting in Africa, where we have communicable diseases. We haven't actually gotten over the, more or less, we haven't gotten a firm grip on that. And because of embracement of Western culture and globalization, embracing everything, including nutrition issues and lifestyle, habits that we have imbibed. Our transition has been like abrupt, and we've now also accumulated on ourselves 70% ability to have prevalence of non-communicable diseases as well. So we are enjoying a double burden of disease. However, even in the past 5 years, people have said it's a triple burden, because there is also a huge impact on chronic diseases that follow trauma. A lot of incidents of road traffic accidents, and of course other illnesses like sickle cell disease have also compounded our disease burden. So it makes it imperative that we should be involved in the whole process of looking for a cure, looking for how to mediate and reduce the scaled up incidence, almost like epidemic proportion of all the different areas of disease burden, non-communicable, communicable diseases in our country. And we've started looking at this clinical trial because there are disparities. There is disproportionate affectation of disease. Some of them, like cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, express themselves in different ways. And so, of course, the genetic basis, which is being shown more acutely on a daily basis, is something that we need to find out what are the drivers for our particular environment. We should get involved in genome-wide studies. We should be involved in translational studies. We should make sure, because it's actually denying our population if we do not engage in this clinical trial process. With the HIV/AIDS and clinical trial emergence into African countries, it was welcomed almost as if it is a guinea pig effort to take advantage of the vulnerable population. And there were reasons for that, because the environment had not been prepared for the process of clinical trial. However, in 2006, we started moving this effort of improving the ethical framework, the regulatory processes all around clinical trials in Nigeria, and then extending to impact on the regulatory authorities across Africa, and now actually moving along with having collaborations, what we call African Clinical Trial Consortium. This was formed in 2017, and the effort is to get more and more researchers across the African region. There was something else that was happening in the African region where postdoctoral researchers found that they didn't have the enabling environment to remain practicing or working in the African region. So they go out in order to be able to get their postdoc qualifications. And when they get there, because they're hardworking, they're good, they are retained. So they don't come back to Africa. So you find that African scientists are not, doing their innovative exploits within the African region. So you find their work is essentially being done outside of the Africa. So this is another effort as well to see if we can create a better enabling environment in order to retain African researchers within the African region and be able to provide for them an opportunity to do their work within the African region and to look back specifically on the natural products that we have. For instance, in the area of Alzheimer dementia, it's been said that perhaps it's in the African region that we can find the products that will, be an answer to either delaying the process or reducing the incidence or even achieving cure for this area of neuroscience. And a lot of scientists are in the bench in Africa actually doing very profound work and are totally undiscovered because their work remains at the bench level. Why? Because there is no funding for them to take it through the next step, which is the clinical trial, and take it to the bedside of the patient and make available products which are produced right there in Africa, authenticated through the clinical trial process, and will become more affordable for our population. So we see increased volume of, attracting increased volume of clinical trial in the African region as a way to create an ability for indigenous drug development and for these natural products to move from the bench to the bedside and to see if the usual processes that prevail for development of other types of drugs might not necessarily need to be followed in order to get our natural products and their potential medicinal benefits to the bedside of the patient. So these are some of the things that our efforts are encouraging and bringing partners like the EDCTP, the WHO, and IAC, and all sorts of stakeholders into it. And we are also trying to talk to the African Union. And so in the meeting that we are going to have in Cape Town, which is the second All Africa Clinical Trial Summit that is being run by the African Clinical Trial Consortium. Actually, my NGO started as Association for Good Clinical Practice in Nigeria, and we worked for 12 years in Nigeria, and then we started expanding to see how we can influence and work as a region and be able to create more impact working as a region than individually in our different countries. And so with that effort was created the African Clinical Trial Consortium, the ACTC, which did the first African Clinical Trial Summit in 2017. And in this 2019, 18th to 19th of August in Cape Town, we are partnering with University of Cape Town, which has actually a clinical research center that is where the director is actually the main person who is championing this effort for us to have the second All Africa clinical trial. So we have an expectation that we are going to bring all the stakeholders on the table in order to make sure that this level of impact and volume that we are looking forward to achieving in the African region in the area of clinical trial will be feasible. Now, there are partners that are Nigerians in the diaspora working profoundly in this sector of clinical trial, and we really want to appreciate them because they've been actually the drivers behind and already creating a lot of capacity for clinical trials in Africa. Notably is the CAPTC, Prostate Cancer Transatlantic Consortium that is run by a Nigerian in the name of Professor Folake Odedina. And she has actually been able to have a consortium of partners across almost all the institutions in Nigeria and then in Cameroon. So working together, we are looking into the area of prostate cancer, and recently the Nigerian Breast Cancer Consortium was also formed at the beginning of this year in order to also start working in the area of breast cancer. So we would like to forge more of such collaborations, not only with organizations that are run by Nigerians or Africans in the diaspora, but beyond that to having collaborations with different institutions and leveraging their experiences so that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think that will be one of the ways that we can, leapfrog this industry in Africa. So that's the effort we are making, and as I said, we're emphasizing a lot on clinical trials on natural products and hoping that our partners will be able to assist us to get into that level of participation in clinical trial industry in Africa.